All right, buckle up, everyone, because today we're taking a deep dive into some pretty wild Tesla news.
Yeah, this is a big one.
We've got a whole stack of financial reports about how they did at the end of 2024. And, well, let's just say it's not the smooth ride Tesla's used to.
It's definitely a bit of a bumpy road.
So, the big story here, the one that really jumped out at us, is that Tesla's deliveries actually dropped last year.
It's the first time, yeah.
Their first ever annual decline since the company started. Kind of surprising,
It
right?
definitely raised some eyebrows when those reports came out.
For sure. So let's get into the specifics here. Deliveries fell by 1.1%, which put them at 1.79 million vehicles for the year. I mean, that's still a huge number of cars.
Oh, absolutely.
But to see them go down instead of up, it's definitely a shift.
It is. It makes you wonder what's going on behind the scenes.
Right. So before we get too deep into that, context is important. Tesla still delivered more vehicles than BYD.
Yeah, BYD is their closest competitor, at least when it comes to just battery electric vehicles.
Right, battery electric. And BYD sold 1.76 million.
So Tesla's still ahead.
They are, but still, that decline, we got to figure out what happened, why the sudden change.
Well, if you think back to the beginning of 2024, Elon Musk, he predicted slight growth.
Yeah, I remember that.
And to try and make that happen, Tesla pulled out all the stops. They offered interest-free financing, free fast charging. I mean, they really tried to sweeten the deal for buyers.
Yeah, those are some pretty tempting incentives, especially if you're, already thinking about getting an EV.
Right. So do you think those moves were enough? I mean, was it enough to kind of turn things around in a market that seems to be, changing pretty rapidly?
It's a good question because, on the one hand, those incentives, they are attractive, but on the other hand, there's a lot of stuff working against Tesla right now. Like all these articles we're looking at, they point to a few key things.
Yeah, like what?
Well, in Europe, they cut back on those subsidies for EVs.
Oh, right. Those were pretty generous for a while.
Exactly. And then here in the US, you've got cheaper hybrid cars becoming more and more popular.
Makes sense. Hybrids are kind of a stepping stone, right?
Yeah, for people who aren't quite ready to go full electric.
Right, right.
And then you can't forget about the competition.
Especially from BYD.
Yeah.
They're really making moves, especially in China.
Big time. So you've got all of that going on, and it seems like maybe those incentives that Tesla offered, maybe they just weren't enough to overcome all of that.
Yeah, it's tough to compete when there are so many forces pushing in the other direction.
Definitely. Plus, we've got this analysis from Morgan Stanley, and they're suggesting that Tesla's models, they're starting to feel a little dated.
A little vintage, maybe.
Yeah, maybe vintage is a nice way to put it.
It's true, though. Some of their models have been around for a while.
They have. And that makes me think about the Cybertruck.
Oh, yeah. How can we forget about that?
Remember when that launched? It was like pure hype.
Totally. That futuristic design, all those bold claims from Musk, it was a huge event.
Huge. But some of these reports, they hint that demand for the Cybertruck might be, I don't know, maybe cooling off a little bit.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, the article we're looking at actually says it's showing signs of weakness in demand, which is a bit unexpected.
It is. And Tesla hasn't released any specific numbers on Cybertruck deliveries yet.
Makes you wonder.
Right. You'd think with all that initial buzz, they'd be shouting those numbers from the rooftops.
You would? So maybe they're holding back for a reason.
Okay, so let's recap here. We've got this dip in deliveries, maybe some question marks around the Cybertruck, and competition that's just getting more and more intense. It sounds like Tesla's at a bit of a crossroads.
They are. And that makes Elon Musk's next move really interesting. He's been pouring resources into a self-driving taxi business.
Whoa, hold on. Self-driving taxis?
Yeah, he's really pushing for it. Thinks it could completely change Tesla.
Okay, that is a bold move. I mean, the technology, it's cool and everything, but is it really ready, like, for real people to use?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is. And can Tesla even pull this off when they're dealing with all these other challenges?
Right. They've got a lot on their plate right now.
They do. The potential of those robotaxis, it's huge. I give them that. But imagine just on-demand, driverless Teslas everywhere.
It would be wild. Like, who would even need to own a car anymore?
Exactly. But there are some big hurdles to clear, right?
Oh, tons. Like getting the technology perfect, obviously.
Yeah, you don't want any glitches with the self-driving car.
No, not at all. And then there's the whole regulatory side of things, getting approval from governments. It's a whole process.
For sure. And maybe even bigger than that, you need people to trust it. Like, are people really going to be comfortable getting into a car with no driver?
Public trust is huge. It's a big hurdle for any new technology, especially one like this.
Okay, so we've got Tesla jumbling a lot right now. The deliveries are down. The Cybertruck might be hitting a snag. They're betting big on these self-driving taxis, and they need to figure out how to win people over.
It's a lot, but there's even more to unpack here.
Oh, there is. Like,
Well, one of the reports mentioned something pretty interesting. Elon Musk has been financially backing Donald Trump's presidential campaign.
wait, really?
Yeah, it's in there. And some analysts are thinking this could be a strategic move.
How so?
Well, they're saying Musk might be hoping for easier regulations under a Trump administration, especially for self-driving cars.
That is interesting. Adds another layer to all of this. So Tesla's facing declining deliveries, a potentially struggling Cybertruck, this big bet on self-driving taxis, and now this whole political angle. What else should we be looking at as we dive deeper into all of this?
Well, we can't ignore all the scrutiny surrounding their current self-driving tech. Autopilot and full self-driving.
Oh, right. I've seen some headlines about that.
Yeah, there have been lawsuits, investigations, even accidents. People are worried that maybe Tesla's overselling what the technology can actually do.
Which makes sense. If they're talking about self-driving taxis, you want to make sure that technology is really ready for prime time.
Exactly. And on top of all that, we have to look at the competition. Are those big traditional car companies finally catching up to Tesla?
It feels like they're getting closer, yeah.
They are. Tesla's actually losing market share in Europe. Some of those newer EVs from companies like Volkswagen, they're actually outselling Tesla's Model Y.
Wow, really? That's a big deal.
It is. And then there's the whole EV tax credit situation here in the U.S.
Yeah.
That $7,500 credit.
Yeah, I've heard that might be going away.
It might. And you'd think that would be pushing people to buy EVs now before it disappears.
Right. Like a last chance to get that discount.
Exactly. But one of the analysts we're looking at, Thomas Martin from Global Alt Investments, he called it interesting that sales haven't spiked.
Interesting how?
Well, like, why aren't people rushing out to buy EVs before the credit goes away?
Right.
It's another piece of the puzzle.
Okay, so we've got declining deliveries. The Cybertruck's future is a little uncertain. They're betting big on self-driving taxis. They're navigating the political landscape. Competition's heating up. And this whole tax credit thing is up in the air. It sounds like Tesla's facing some real challenges right now.
They are. But they're also known for being pretty resilient, and for their ability to innovate.
So the question is, can they adapt and overcome all of this?
Exactly. That's what we need to figure out.
Well, we'll keep digging into all of that as we continue this deep dive. We're going to be back in a bit to really break down Tesla's potential strategies and what all of this means for the future of the company and honestly the whole EV market.
So we've talked about all the challenges Tesla's up against, right? Like the deliveries dropping, the Cybertruck maybe not doing as well as they hoped, all that competition. But now I think it's time to think about what they can do about it. Like, what kind of strategies do they have to turn things around?
Yeah, good point. I'm kind of curious about their product strategy. They're really relying on the Model 3 and the Model Y right now. I don't know, what if they tried to offer some different kinds of cars?
That's interesting. Yeah, if they diversified their lineup, it could really change things for them.
Right, like what if they came out with a more affordable EV?
Yeah, something that appeals to people who maybe can't afford a Model S or a Model X.
Exactly. Or, a car that's specifically designed for, like, city driving.
Oh, like a compact electric car? That would be cool. Or what about an electric van for deliveries?
Ooh, yeah. There's a lot of potential there. It
Ah.
seems like they've been mostly focused on that luxury EV market.
They have, but there's a whole world of other possibilities out there, and it could really help them grow.
For sure. Okay, so new products, that's one idea. What else?
Well, there's always partnerships.
Oh, right. Like
Yeah.
teaming up with other companies.
Exactly. It could give them a real edge.
Yeah.
Like, imagine if they partnered with a big battery manufacturer to create even better batteries.
Yeah, longer range, faster charging, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Or what if they worked with a company that specializes in charging infrastructure? They could expand that supercharger network even further.
That's a good one. Those partnerships, it's like combining superpowers.
Right. You take the best of what each company has to offer, and you create something even stronger.
Okay, so new products, partnerships, anything else?
Well, there's marketing.
Oh, interesting. You think they need to change their approach there?
Maybe. Up until now, Tesla's been really good at generating buzz, right?
Yeah, with their tech and, Elon Musk's personality.
Exactly. But as the competition gets tougher, maybe they need to focus more on, like, the practical benefits of their cars.
Instead of just the hype.
Right. Like really reassure people about things like range anxiety or how easy it is to charge an EV.
Yeah, make it clear how much money you can save by not buying gas.
Exactly. Or highlight their safety features, how good they are for families. Just appeal to a wider range of buyers.
So, less flash, more substance. Makes sense. Okay, but we got to talk about the self-driving taxis. That's a big one. Do you really think it'll work, or is Musk getting a little ahead of himself?
I think it's a big gamble, but the payoff could be huge.
Okay, how so?
Think about it. If Tesla can actually get over all those hurdles, the technology, the regulations, convincing people that it's safe,
Yeah, that's a lot of ifs.
it is.
Mm.
But if they can do it, they could have a fleet of robotaxis all over the place. People wouldn't even need to own cars anymore. They could just summon a Tesla whenever they needed one.
Okay, I can see how that would be appealing, especially in a city. But I'm still not sure people are ready to trust a car with no driver.
That's the big challenge, isn't it? Public trust. People need to feel safe. They need to believe that the technology works.
So how do they build that trust?
Well, they need to be transparent about how the technology works. They need to answer people's questions about safety. And maybe even start slow. Maybe offer limited self-driving features in certain areas just to get people used to the idea.
Ease them into it. I like that. But let's be real. Building all these self-driving taxis, it's going to be expensive, especially while their sales are down and they've got all this competition.
Oh, it's going to be incredibly expensive. No doubt about it. They're going to have to walk a fine line, balancing investments in this new tech with keeping their current business afloat. And then there's the whole regulatory side of things.
Right, like
Oh,
you were saying before about Musk and Trump.
exactly.
Yeah.
Musk might be hoping for looser regulations under Trump, but that's a gamble too. Because who knows what's going to happen with those regulations?
It seems like a lot is riding on that. So Tesla needs to make sure they have enough money to develop the technology and navigate the regulations and convince people that it's safe.
And let's not forget about actually building the things.
Oh, right. Scaling up production.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Tesla's had some problems with that in the past, right? Like getting those factories running smoothly, making sure they have enough parts.
So they need to prove they can actually build a lot of these robo-taxis and make sure they're high quality.
And they'll need more factories, better supply chains, more talented people to make it all happen.
Okay, so it's a massive undertaking, to say the least. But let's say they do it. Let's say they pull it off. What does that future look like?
Well, it would be a completely different world. Tesla wouldn't just be a car company anymore. They'd be like a tech giant.
Controlling a whole network of driverless cars.
Right. They could disrupt the entire transportation industry.
Wow. Like no more Uber or Lyft?
Potentially.
Yeah.
And public transportation could look totally different too. Even the way we design our cities could change.
That's a lot to wrap my head around. But it's a pretty exciting vision, I gotta admit.
It is. But we also have to be realistic, right? There are a lot of things that could go wrong.
Like what?
Well, what if another company figures out self-driving technology before Tesla?
Oh, yeah. Like there's a race going on, right?
Exactly. And what if there's like a big accident involving a self-driving car
Mm-hmm.
or a security breach?
That would definitely make people think twice about using them.
Oh, absolutely. Public perception is everything. Tesla can have the best technology in the world, but if people don't trust it, it's not going to work.
So they need to make sure their tech is safe, but they also need to convince people that it's safe.
Exactly. And then there are all the ethical questions that come with self-driving cars.
Oh, right. Like what happens if the car has to make a decision in an accident?
Yeah, who's responsible if something goes wrong? Those are big questions that we need to answer as a society.
It's not just about the technology itself, it's about all these other things that come with it.
Exactly. It's a complex issue.
But that's what makes it so fascinating, right? This isn't just about one company's success or failure. It's about how technology can change the way we live our lives.
So Tesla's got a lot on their plate, a lot of challenges to overcome.
They do. But it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. We'll be back in a bit to talk about what all of this means for us, the people who are watching this whole thing unfold, the consumers, the investors, everyone. All right, so we spent a lot of time talking about Tesla. Their not so great year in terms of deliveries, that whole Cybertruck situation, and of course the big question mark hanging over those self-driving taxis. It's a lot to process.
It really is. And it's not just about Tesla. It's about where the whole car industry is heading.
Okay, so big picture, what are the main takeaways here? What does all of this tell us about the future of transportation? And what does it mean for regular people like us?
I think one of the biggest things is like how competitive the EV market has become. It's
Yeah.
not just about making a cool electric car anymore. It's about like building a whole ecosystem.
An ecosystem.
Yeah, like everything that goes along with owning an EV. The
Ooh.
batteries, the charging stations, the software, maybe even those robo-taxis.
Right. So it's not just the car itself, it's everything around it.
Ex-
So what does that mean for people who are, thinking about buying an EV? Like, should we jump in now before that tax credit goes away? Or should we wait and see what happens?
It's a tough one. That $7,500 is a big incentive to buy now. But the tech is changing so fast, and there are new EVs coming out all the time.
True. You don't want to buy something and then, like, 6 months later, there's a way better car out there.
Exactly. So I think it comes down to, like, what do you need right now?
Mm-hmm.
And how much risk are you willing to take?
Right. Balance those incentives with the possibility that something better is just around the corner. Okay, so that's for buyers. What about investors? Is Tesla still a smart investment?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. I mean, I'm not a financial advisor, but Tesla's still doing some really innovative stuff.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of potential. But they also have a lot of challenges right now.
Declining sales, competition, the cost of developing those self-driving taxis.
Exactly. It's kind of like they're making these huge bets, and it's not clear if they're going to pay off.
High risk, high reward.
Exactly.
But, even if they don't pull off those robotaxis, the whole idea of them is pretty mind-blowing, right?
Oh, absolutely. If self-driving cars actually become like a normal thing, it would change everything.
Think about it. No more owning a car. You just summon a Tesla whenever you need one.
Yeah, it would be like having a personal chauffeur, but for way cheaper.
Yeah.
And it could make cities so much more efficient.
Less traffic, less pollution.
Exactly. But it also brings up a lot of questions, like what happens to all the people who drive for a living? What about the ethical stuff?
Right. If a self-driving car gets in an accident, who's at fault?
Exactly. It's not just about the technology. It's about all the ways it could change our lives.
So Tesla, they're pushing the boundaries, and they're making us think about the future in a whole new way.
Definitely. It's exciting. It's a little scary, but it's definitely something worth paying attention to.
All right, well, we've covered a lot of ground today. I think the big question we're left with is what happens next? What does the future hold for Tesla, for the EV market, and for all of us? It's something to think about for sure. And hopefully this deep dive has given you some food for thought. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.